just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a very, very special episode of Bloke in a Bar for two reasons. It's one of the first ones in the new studio, and the second and more important reason is we have the great Hazem El Masri. What's going on, brother?
Not much, mate. Thank you for having me here. Beautiful place, and winger to winger, mate.
Mate, winger to winger. That's you know what I love the fact about like your whole career, and the fact that you see wingers these days and they're 6 foot a million and 150 million kilos. What I loved about yourself was like you were the classical winger of like great finisher, obviously the GOAT goal kicker. So that classical winger, I feel like it's kind of coming back, but there's not very many classical wingers anymore. Who would you say is a classic winger currently playing?
Oh, look, it's hard to say because, like you're saying, they're all 6 foot plus and 110, 120 kilos. They phased this out, to be honest. So, and now you look back and you think to yourself, I don't know if I can still make it now if it was these days. So, all the big boys are taking over. They're sort of extra forwards. Although our time, we had to deal with guys like Vodavai and Wendell and Takiri.
Right.
So they were as a quick fast, big with a step. So
mate, it's but they were like back in those days. They were the anomaly. Anomaly? Is that how you say it? Like they were the what I mean? Like there was like big winger. That's crazy. Whereas these days you look at like you got Fusatua. Yeah, like they're all massive. Like even Suli Vunivalu, he's massive. Adokar, he's still nearly 6 foot, and he's seen as like a smaller winger or whatever. He's probably him and Brett Morris are probably the most classical wingers, I'd say. But how have you been, bro? Obviously the doggies, I don't want to hype it up too much, but the bounce back looks like it's begun. It hasn't been for you.
Yeah, look, it's exciting. Normally a club like the Bulldogs always bounces back. They have a bad year or two, and then it's entrenched in us. It's in our DNA to succeed. It's a proud club, and it prides itself on success. It's a little bit sad that it's gotten a long time now since we've actually participated in the semi-finals or. As I said again, normally we bounce back a year, maybe two, and we're in the semis. But it's been a long time now, and hopefully, a few key signings come again next year as well. Adokar and a few other guys come along, and I reckon we'll start to challenge for the top four.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I think that people need to be patient and understand. Like a lot of people say, failed year, they didn't make the top four or whatever. Like say, for example, we look at this year, or even let's say 2022 for the Bulldogs. A lot of people are going to be like, if they don't make top 6 2022, that's terrible, whatever. But people don't understand, you need to progress to the top tier. Like you need to go get results on the board, be able to recruit, and then keep recruiting. Whereas like you look at the hardest thing for teams that are in the bottom 8 is recruitment. You look at like a Tigers, for example, they really struggle to recruit. Doggies struggled to recruit for a few years there. Now they've got Trent Barrett, which was a game changer, who has the influence to do it. But I think they're absolutely on the path to because I would say Doggies fans, top 3, they've got to be top 3 most passionate. In the era where you were dominant, it was crazy out there.
Yeah, and like you're saying, I think one thing that generally speaking around is that we've never had problems attracting players except recently, and you've had to pay overs for them to come. That's never been the club's policy anyway. We've always relied on our juniors coming through and probably buying a couple of players here and there to fill in these gaps. But recently it's just been trying to attract players to the club. It's been really difficult, and that's never been, and we've never been in that position, and we struggled to do so. So now I guess look, a new start, and what I like about it is that Trent Barrett has got a young mind, and we've signed young players. So therefore, hopefully, they go well from now. You'll have them for the next 5 to 10 years if the club is willing to do so. So
it is a pretty young roster. I mean, your oldest forward would probably be Josh Jackson. He's probably one of your older forwards. Outside of that, it's relatively young. Tolman obviously moved on. But there's nothing better when the Dogs are going good because the fans they love it.
Look around the area, especially in particular in Sydney. Of course, the Broncos up in Brisbane, but when you have teams like St George, Parramatta, the Bulldogs, and South Sydney, of course, the game is healthy. I remember the year I retired in 2009. That's the year that obviously Jared Hayne just blitzed everyone, and St George finished on top, and we were sort of equal on points. So them 3 teams But the amount of crowd we generated, our semi-finals, we generated 75,000 people. But the buzz was everywhere. You know, people talk, and you either, especially around the area, they're only 15 minutes away from each other. You've got Bulldogs being in the middle, for example, Canterbury Bankstown District, and then Parramatta and St George. But yeah, the buzz and everyone around, it's actually, it takes you back to the 80s and the 90s and that, which is fantastic.
Absolutely, and you're totally right. That proximity of being relatively close, it creates that fire. Kind of, you can feel it in the streets. You can feel it when you're walking around. Whereas
you just love it. I get goosebumps every time I think about it, because I grew up in Belmore, obviously, and we love playing St George, even throughout our career. And you love playing Parramatta. These games you look forward to. That's the first games you sort of look on the calendar to see which ones they are. And you, even if you come in last and second last, you always get up for these games.
Yep, absolutely.
And the fans as well. So and I'll find it a lot. And you talk to a lot of either Saints or the Eels supporters, and as soon as one of them wins, the other ones, they turn their phone off for a couple of days. So
100%.
It's healthy rivalry, but I mean, it's still, the hatred is there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's what sport's all about. Though, What about Origin? How'd you find Origin last year? Like, obviously we were a bit removed from it, but you had the chat, the worst team in 40 years or whatever. A journalist said that, not everyone else said that. Did you enjoy Origin at the end of the year, or was it a bit strange for you?
Look, it was good because we put everything aside, and now let's concentrate, everybody in the camp, concentrate about 3 weeks. And it might have been obviously tough for the players to go recovery-wise week to week, as it is a very, very tough game to sort of recover from in a week's time. But look, I think it worked well. The crowd obviously turned out as much as they could, obviously because of the COVID. But other than that, the games were enjoyable to watch. I think New South Wales probably took them for granted that first, underestimated them that first game.
The first game.
And I think both teams played well, but when I watched that first game, it was pretty much one missed tackle on the right hand side, one missed tackle on the left hand side,
true.
And they scored one try each.
That's
one obviously that chip over the top. All of a sudden, game over. So second game they played much better, New South Wales. Third game up in Brizzy, always tough to beat. But look, the way I look at it, when people talk about how bad it is, I mean, if you choose one player from each team, they're all going to amalgamate together and get together and create. If you've got a good halves and fullback and all that, they're going to amalgamate together and become a force to be reckoned with. So I never believe the hype about this team is better than that one. You're still picking the cream of the crop from all these teams anyways.
Totally. Yeah, they're elite athletes, and the percentage of difference between even Thurston and let's say the worst half in the comp, it's not gigantic. It's not like he is 50% better than that player. It's that extra 5-10% where he is half a second quicker, half a second more disciplined. That's the difference. So
and the experience, of course, that plays a major part. So it's the little things that they do right, and they pay off towards the end. And I think, look, we saw that over the dominant of Queensland for about 10 years there. That's the difference. Were always the halves. If you take the halves out and you put them in New South Wales, New South Wales would have won that 10.
Totally.
So it was that close every single time. But again, for Queensland, I mean, what an era. Let's face it. I mean,
it won't happen again.
You're never going to get a certain amount of guys, Cronk and Smith and Slater, same age almost, and coming through, and they played 1,000 games together.
Crazy.
I can't see any code out there in the world that three main guys, that control the field play 1,000 games together.
Totally.
So
and they played together before NRL as well.
Mate, that's enormous, and that speaks volume itself. And of course, you add, over the years, the Lockyers and the Inglis's and you name it. So what a team,
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, you even look at their forward back. Shane Webke got replaced by Petro. Petro got replaced by Matt Scott. It's honestly, it was like a lottery that 8 years, like legit lottery. And it kind of perpetuated in the sense that those boys brought other players up to their level. And it just I mean, I always say to people that try to focus on the New South Wales losses, I'm like, it was pure luck, the losses, in the sense that obviously Queensland worked hard. I'm a Queenslander, but no team. You would have had to get like Joey, Freddie, You know, maybe
all the immortals.
Yeah, all the immortals on New
Put 'em
South
on
Wales
team,
because that's what they were playing against.
Yeah. Again, it's a wonderful era. Like to get that caliber of players, same age, playing, you know, at the same
injury free
and different positions. You know what I mean? That, like, I mean, if you think about every position, the important positions, just had these guys injury free, like you're saying, and just.
Mate,
just blitzed it.
They were like in prime form as well. Like everything just worked out perfect. I mean, at one stage they had Cronk coming off the bench as your 14, like one of the greatest ever sevens, arguably the greatest, coming off the bench. So, what are your predictions for this year? Your top 4 or top 8, kind of there or thereabouts?
Yeah, look, obviously every year, you know, you get through the same thing. But look, for me, obviously, look, you know, you got the same teams, the Roosters and Melbourne. You got Canberra will be up there again. You know, I mean, South Sydney will be in the top, you know, 5 or 4. You know, what I mean, so it's similar teams now to rebuild. I think it's the top 6 will be the same 6. It's only the probably the bottom, you know, the bottom of the 8, with the, you know, so the 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th, that could be
chop and change.
So, you know, obviously, look, Newcastle, if they you know, they've signed well again, so if they'll come up, probably take one of them positions. Hopefully the Dogs can be able to sort of squeeze in there. The Warriors, you know, had a really good year last year, and that, so again, they could be, so again, that
that 6 to 10. I reckon there'll be movement too. Who's your smoky? Who's somewhere where you could really be like, wow, they've come in? I think Warriors and Titans for me. We'll say that every year.
Yeah, you know, look, I do agree. I've always said, especially now with the Titans and, you know, with Holbrook being there as well, they've had a good year, and I think they've found their 6 and 7 now, which is fantastic. You know, I think they'll definitely make the 8. They have to make the 8. You know what I mean? So,
mate, surely.
And the Warriors, like you're saying, when they're hot, just consistency. And I thought they found consistency last year a bit more than any other year. So it's if they can get to the semis and find that consistent, you know, game day by day. Yeah,
I agree. I think a lot of people, like the Warriors, they signed well and they showed what they lacked, as you said, for so many years was that consistent footy, but they did show it towards the end of the year. So hopefully they can bring it out to this year. But takes back to a young fella, born in the great Lebanon. Correct?
That's right, yeah. Tripoli, Lebanon, bro.
Mate, Lebanon's finest, they reckon. That's what the word on the street is, Lebanon's finest. So, whereabouts were you born in Lebanon?
Yeah, in Tripoli, bro. And, you know, born there. I arrived to Australia at the age of 12. And, you know, as I said, never looked back. Just, you know, straight to Belmore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, straight to Belmore. So lived in Belmore for a while.
Were you playing, like, soccer over there?
Played soccer. Played soccer for since, you know, a young age. And I didn't actually give it up until the age of 17. So it was year 11. I played for school, and then year 12 I played for school and a junior club. Yeah. And lucky enough, had a couple of selectors there, and they just gave me a call and said, "Listen, just come be part of our trying squad."
Oh, really?
And it just went from there. So
wow. Okay. So
yeah, it was a quick rise to the top. You know, I didn't expect it, to be honest with you. So yeah. I was meant to play flag. I was 18. I had trials with flag. Went straight to 21s. 21s. Towards the end of 21s, the last 5 games, I actually played reserve grade. Started at fullback as well. And then the year after that, I played first grade in '96. So yeah, just kind of.
So did you play? So what was the reason for moving from Lebanon to Australia? Just a better life? Because I know there was some issues there. In the 80s, I think there was a few issues. Was that the reason? Or just
look, there's always issues, unfortunately. Lebanon, I've always described it as the backyard for all wars. Anybody that wants to have a war or disagreement, they just let's meet you. I'll meet you in Lebanon for some reason. So I do feel for the people. You know, there's just survivors and trying to make a living and look after their families. For us, we actually arrived on a refugee visa. You know, a lot of people don't know that. So, we sort of applied for it, and we waited a lot of times, and until, as I said, we got the go-ahead. 5 kids. My sister was born in Australia 2 years later, so 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. Really tough. Even when we arrived here, we arrived actually in the middle of a recession in Australia. Interest rates were 17-something%, and trying to. And I think you had to have a sponsor for about 6 months, so we couldn't even get paid from like Centrelink or anything like that. So we sought help from the Salvation Army, the Smith family, other the Lebanese organisations, and so the first 6 months, very, very testing time.
Yep.
And, 2-bedroom unit.
Wow.
As I said, 6 kids. We
my
had
God.
bunk beds everywhere and
Yeah,
all that,
yeah.
and just trying to survive. But
Wow.
the good thing about that, bro, is that you know the value of life. You have respect now for what you have, and that's the thing that you're trying to pass on to the next generation and your kids and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm guilty of it too. There's so many countries that have these beautiful long histories that, we don't have outside of the indigenous people, because obviously they have a really long history, but
Absolutely.
but there's these beautiful countries that get just pulled apart by corruption and all that kind of stuff, and so because I've never experienced it, I think that life is just like this normally. Like, you go to school, and if your mum can go and dad can get a normal job and everything's fine, whereas there are countries genuinely where you can work your ass off and get nothing,
and that's what it is, man. For some of the viewers there that don't know, for example, till this day, Lebanon don't have 24 hours of electricity. They don't, because it's all politically, there's an agenda for everything, so you might get it 5 to 8 hours a day sometimes, so you could be in the lift going up, and then all of a sudden you're stuck there for a few hours. Even the water sometimes, they struggle to get flow with the water and that, it's tough, and everything is served either someone's got their hands on, and they certain taxes and all that. So look, from a political point of view, there's a lot of agendas there.
Yeah, okay, a lot of moving, different factions vying for power, all that kind of. I mean, it's just it's so sad, because that area of the world is such a rich, beautiful history, and it's
Beirut used to be called the Paris of the Middle East. Unfortunately, look, and when you go to Lebanon, you actually, especially in particular in certain seasons, and that sometimes you could be up in the mountains where there's snow, and you could be down in the water, actually some swimming. So they're about an hour and a half, but just the climate changes, and it's a wonderful place to be around, and it is tough because of financially. So they do rely on a lot of actually help through their relatives and all that, in particular in Australia, Brazil, and all that. So they're highly populated with Lebanese people.
It's like a world that we're just being born and raised here, you're just not aware of, kind of thing. So when you got here, as a refugee, and you get there first 6 months, could you speak English yet or no?
I spoke a bit of French,
I mean. So
in Lebanon at the time it was mainly French and Arabic.
Yep.
English, unless you went to a private selective school and all that, but spoke a little bit of French.
What was that first 6 months like? Because did you say 12?
Yeah, I arrived halfway through year 6.
Halfway through year 6.
So
was that first period like? Was it tough?
It was tough. Look, but what helped is that you went to a school in Hampden Park Public School where predominantly there was a lot of Lebanese people, Arabic speaking. So it helps you a little bit.
Absolutely.
Again, the counsellor there that spoke Arabic, even at Bulmore Boys High School, for example, helped us a lot. She saw that my parents and that we're all struggling to even pay the fees, so they actually dismissed a lot of that. Helped my mum apply for certain grants to be able to sort of help us pay for uniforms, pay for certain,
so it was really tough,
certain
really
essentials.
Tough.
Absolutely. We arrived in Australia in debt, actually. So so we just had enough for the tickets. When we arrived here, we couldn't just shuck over anybody's place because you got 5 kids. So therefore my uncles put together for us a few furniture and a unit, so obviously we had to pay all that back. So and borrowing a little bit more for the tickets, although we sold everything overseas. But
so your parents basically are selling everything. We need to leave this country. Australia's a land of opportunity. Obviously we still have our own issues.
Look, we did have 2 uncles and an auntie here, so and obviously they spoke very highly of Australia and how good it is and all that. So and my dad, look, he was open for the ID, and he applied. I got another auntie in Canada. We actually applied there. We almost went to Canada as well. But but Australia was the way we were. Thank God it was.
We would have been robbed of the great Hazem.
Oh yeah, ice hockey, mate. I got to find something.
Okay, so you get here. At what age did you begin to play footy? And was that a real gateway into, the great thing about footy is it doesn't matter where you come from, whatever, it's such an equalizer. Like, you speak to people that you would never speak to. Was that the way you kind of got to know the boys from Australia or anything like that, or?
Look, for me, sports was always an avenue that opened up, understanding, discussions and that. So, again, for me, I wanted to play. I couldn't speak the language, but you know what? Sports unifies people.
Absolutely.
It speaks every language out there. So, soccer, in particular, when we used to play in as I said, year 6, I jumped on. I was one of the last people to get chosen. So they're picking teams, and they go, just come on that side. So after the first game, and they're like, oh my God, who's this guy? So the next time, what's your name again? You're on my side,
How good is that?
So
such a good example.
Yeah, so you find avenues, and then you find friendships through that.
Absolutely.
And look, then I obviously discovered the game of rugby league at a local barbecue. A couple of cousins, and they said, I said, let's play, play soccer. And then they go, no, here we'll play footy. And I looked at this, egg-looking, shape of a ball, and I said, okay, so what do you got to do? They said, you just got to see that line over there. You got to grab the line and put the ball down there without anyone pretty much touching you or tackling you. And then you got to stop them from doing so. And I'm like, that's it? They go, yeah. What a game.
Pretty simple.
All of a sudden, I just grabbed the ball and, being a little nippy and all that, and just going through and scoring tries. And I just thought, I fell in love with it from that day. And I said, wow, that's awesome.
How good is that? So how old were you at that stage?
12.
12.
Yeah.
So as soon as that was like, this is what we play here, boom, you tried it and you just loved it.
That's it,
Wow,
I started watching footy and learning slowly about the game. Ball my first, although it was an AFL little ball, but
same shape.
That's it. You take it to school. Everywhere I went, I had a little ball, always bouncing with it. And you get 10 minutes, 15 minutes of recess, mate, we're playing. You get lunchtime, you're playing. You get a free period, you're playing.
Absolutely.
So I just love the game.
Mate, how good is that? Like, it just, as you said, the example you used of like breaking down barriers that usually would be there. Without sport, there's no way those guys would have been like, oh, we want to pick him, and then then the ball just gets rolling, and before you know it, you're mates with them. So at what point, so you were still playing soccer at this point, at what point did you realise like, oh, I'm actually, one of the better players in rugby league? Were you a late bloomer, or from an early age you were going,
Look, my parents wouldn't allow me to play. They just said, look, you're familiar with soccer? Play soccer. So, and I think, look, coming to a different country, not knowing the language, what it's all about, you look for something that you can familiarize yourself with, So whether it's the same people, the same location, so until you grow, and then you're able to sort of expand and spread your wings and go. So my parents, look, you played soccer for a while, you know what it is, so just continue playing that. I played touch football at school, so I would have been about 14, 15, and I started playing a little bit of touch, you know what I mean, through the school, and made I think Metropolitan East or Med East at the time, and so all part of the experience until I got to the age of 17, and a friend of mine was playing for the local juniors, and he said, mate, just come along and play with us. And I said, look, my parents wouldn't allow me, and all my mates at the time playing soccer, they finished school and then they left. And I thought to myself, look, I went and spoke to my parents, and he actually got his mum, because she used to drive us.
I got his mum. How good is that?
Yeah. Ahmed Daisley, I never, and his beautiful mother as well. So his mother come along, had a chat to my mum, and said, "Listen, I'll take him. I'll bring him. He's like my son. Do not worry. Do not worry. We'll take. We'll look after him and all that." And she's like, "My mum, it's a rough game." And my dad, the same thing. He goes, "I don't want him playing that game." He hated actually watching it. The irony is that later on, he never missed a game, and if I turn up, like he didn't miss a game of what the Bulldogs played. Actually, other games as well.
The whole thing of it. Okay.
So if I rock up and to visit and that, and he'll say, "Oh, look, St George's played, for example, Newcastle, kicked the goal, and then this and that." I'm like, "Oh, okay, is that my dad, the one that didn't want anything to do with the game?" So and look, he realised that, because once you're out there and meeting some of the community members around the streets, and he felt proud. He you talk about the game, and just as I said, you fall in love with it naturally.
Absolutely. So, it's a really good way to introduce him to the community. The local community. It's such a way to break the ice. It's funny. It's so funny because my parents were the exact same. I played soccer till I was 17 also. and I was like really serious into it, and they were like, "Nah, you're not playing rugby league. Too dangerous. Too." I remember we had a meeting with the Broncos, and my mum said to them, "He's only allowed to play if he doesn't get tackled." Yeah. And I was like, "Are you serious?" That's how little we knew about rugby league, and they were like,
no wonder you were quick.
Yeah, didn't want to get tackled. And so I can totally relate that weird. And by the end of it, they were exact same. Didn't miss a game. Loved it. Okay, so you go play with your mates down at the local footy. At what point did the clubs become interested in you?
Well, we finished the year that time playing local juniors and of course school. I think they have back then. They used to have the trial matches, where you go and either you get a letter to come and try out, and they have probably about 40, 50 to 100 players actually, and they choose and select the ones that they want. I didn't end up going. I actually didn't know about it, so I got a phone call at home. Obviously there was no mobiles back then. So I happened to pick up the phone, thank God, and Paul Tysons was his name. I'm one of the selectors at the Bulldogs. Why didn't you try out for us? And I said, I never knew about it. He said, okay, would you be willing to be part of the trying squad? I said, yeah, why not? So
absolutely.
Come down certain dates and at certain time, and I was there at Belmore Sports Ground. I met down there, and all of a sudden there was about 40, 50 players already got selected, and another bus that just arrived from the country with about another probably 30, 40 players just come out and all in the room, and I was like, oh wow, look at this now, so. And it just went from there. Obviously training and doing a bit of hills and you name it. While we trying to find work. So
So did you stop soccer at that point? Were you like, okay, I'm going to focus on league, or were you still playing soccer when you could?
I stopped in, as I said, my year 12. I played footy.
Oh, because all your mates moved on from it.
Yeah, I played footy. So that was 1994. I played for a club and a school.
Okay, so when was the first time you got called into the first grade squad just to train with them?
96.
Okay.
That's in 95. Obviously, the Bulldogs had a wonderful year, won the grand final. Super League obviously was about to kick in, so we lost numerous players, and the Dean Pays and McCracken and Jason Smith and Dimmick and Dallas. So I was meant to actually start at fullback for reserve grade. Friday, Sunday's the game. The club got me a small job that I could work at Belmore Sports Ground. At the time, they were rebuilding the grandstands. So because I couldn't make training a lot of times, I worked I'd done about 6 months electrician, and it was a service company. So at 4 o'clock, sometimes you think you're almost finished, and then you get Penrith, for example, you got to go up there and service hot water, for example. You got to take it. So there was a lot of times I missed out on a lot of training, and I said, "That's what can I do?"
It's work.
So they said, listen, come, we'll just get you a job at Belmore Sports Ground. And Friday about 4 o'clock, I'm about to sort of almost go home. One of the trainers, all of a sudden, he's looking for me. He's like, Hazem, where you been? I'm like, I'm here working, He said, mate, Chris Anderson wants you at the back. Put your boots on. You're playing first grade this week. I was like,
what? So you'd
he's
never
like,
been with
go
the
now. I'm like, oh yeah, so I just kind of froze for a second, and I'm thinking. So last year I was playing under 21s, and I played a couple of games of reserve grade. I'm starting now, which is I've cemented my spot. Actually, I was happy that I cemented my spot as reserve grade fullback.
Totally.
And all of a sudden it's I'm playing on. You're on the wing. Matthew Ryan hurt his back that time.
So you hadn't trained with him yet?
No. So I had one session. So again, it was Friday, and Matthew Ryan hurt his back, and then there I am on the wing playing the Tigers in Parramatta Stadium. Second round, I think it was a forfeit. We had to with the first round. Something was up. And
made your debut. What do you remember from you're sitting in the changing rooms, you're looking around going, holy moly, that's such and such. What do you remember from the debut?
Look, the thing is, the year before, like I said, they won the grand final. So you look at all these guys, and you're sort of going, wow. And especially that time, Terry Lamb actually come back from retirement. So for me, it was like a big buzz. Oh, there's Terry, and over there, everybody loves obviously Terry and that, But look, there was a lot of guys all welcoming. Rod Silva in particular took me under his wing. He's at fullback. Hazem just nice and relaxed, and let's work together at the back here. Guys like Johnny Timu was there, and so they made me feel like really welcome. And even when Matthew Ryan come back as well from injury, I was able to play 15 games that year, which is so it was really good for me. Great experience. Again, I don't know it, and the beauty about it is that a lot of people didn't actually know much about me because it was only 1 year of not even reserve grade. It was 5 games in reserve grade.
That's
and
so true.
So a lot of people were like, "Who is this guy? Where did he come from?" Even as I said, the Arabic community,
who is this guy? Totally. Especially back then, because there's like no internet to go.
That's right.
Who's this young kid? It's just like the kid.
You had to wait for the Rugby League week.
Yeah, 100%. Well, okay, so that first year happens, 15 games, and then had you already signed a contract, or is that when you signed like your first grade contract?
Yeah. Look, when I got in, as soon as I in '95 came. I got offered actually 2 years. Well, after 5 games of playing 21s, I got offered 2 years. $1,000 that first year and $5,000 next year.
Mate,
plus match payments.
Mate, these days the minimum in top 25 is $100 grand.
So anyway, I thought, look, you know what, why not? It's the start of something. So I played first grade, and I was on 8,000. They upgraded to
massive upgrade.
Yeah, because of the Super League, they invite you in the office, and now you hear $80,000 full time, and I'm thinking, oh, how good is that, And you walk in the office, and you get a pay rise, and I've got the biggest frown on my face, I remember that time they're like, oh, look, you had a good year, you're on 5,000, we're going to upgrade it, and underneath I'm going,
here we go, here's the big payday.
And all of a sudden I'm like, here it is, and he's like, oh, we upgraded to 8,000. I'm like, 8? Did you say? He's like 8? I'm thinking more 80, but because 8,000, I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? Yep.
Because people like our younger audience around the Super League time, there were huge amounts of money getting thrown around.
I missed it. And when I retired, I missed it as well. Because it's funny, I was 1 year too late to jump on with the Super League and that. And then when I retired, after 1 year, all the salary cap went up, So I was like, yes,
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Okay, so you signed that 2-year deal, and then, so this would have been 90, so this is 96 and 97, the next couple of years, because you debuted in the...
Yeah, so I had 95, 96, and then I obviously got brought in there, and I signed another 2 years, which is 96 and 97.
Okay, and then 98, you make the grand final?
98, yep.
Yeah, what was that like? First experience in the grand final?
Yeah, it was good. Look, for me personally, it wasn't a really good year. I got demoted that year. I had a couple of surgeries, early in the year. By the time I got going, and the whole team was struggling at the time until they found a role on. When you got momentum, it's a completely different.
Totally.
Had a couple of guys there, Daryl Halligan and Gavin Lester had a really good year as well. And they went along to make the first grade and play in the grand final. Yeah. For me personally, as I said, I got demoted. It hurt me a lot. Although I continued to play well in reserve grade, and we won the grand final for reserve grade, and I was starting fullback, but it just hurt because once you sort of get a taste of first grade, that's exactly where you want to be.
Absolutely.
And it just made me hungrier, and so when the season finished, I put it behind me and I trained as hard as I could, and I just made a promise for myself I'd never want to be in that position again.
Okay.
And
so that was a real turning point for you.
And for me, I was able to actually break the club record for most consecutive games until I got injured. 170 something
from
games.
That point on.
Yeah, from that point on. Wow. So I just turned around and. Although look, my attitude was always positive, but it's hard sometimes. As a winger,
Absolutely.
If the team is not going well, you can only just do so much, if you know what I mean. So,
because like a lot of people watching, when a team's struggling, they'll be like, "Oh, why doesn't the winger come in and do this scoot or do that and do that?" But you don't understand, like, there's structures, and you've got to be out in your wing, and if you're not there, you get absolutely annihilated.
And even when you get into dummy half, the opposition
totally.
You're only going to get in there and you get all the forwards going, "Oh, here he comes!" So.
Perfect. A winger's coming in to scoot, my opportunity to friggin' rip his head off.
That's right. Stay to play the ball. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the next year, So next year's 1999, and you make your debut for Lebanon against Morocco. Scored 48 points.
Yeah, look, again, 97, the whispers were Lebanon is going to be in the World Sevens. And we sort of, you laugh it off and you think, wow. And then, Johnny Elias, some of the other boys, and they're like, no, this is happening. Would you be part of it? And I said, no, I'd love to, why not? And it was actually awesome seeing the Lebanese crowd there. I think I still remember, I think Bay 35 or 36, both bays were absolutely just chockers and that. And the Lebanese people turned out in numbers to support the game and support us. And then after that, they sort of try to schedule a few games every year for the guys. And one of them, I think we had to qualify for the World Cup, we had to play numerous teams: French, Italy, Morocco, and then the winner plays the winner out of USA, Japan, and I think Canada, and in USA. And so we flew to France, and great experience.
That's so
and then from there on, we were able to win that straight to US. Play against US there. We won that game and qualified for the World Cup, which is something that's
was that the first
major.
ever?
First ever for the club. First ever, I think, for the Lebanese people itself. They've never been into a major World Cup or major competition, qualified for a major competition, which made it significant for us.
How good's that?
Yeah, but look, for the Moroccan boys, they were actually fantastic. We shared the bus with them throughout.
Really?
And at the time, obviously, we played numerous first grade, and they were very extremely friendly. And and the whole time we were friendly until the game came.
You're like, we're supposed to be playing footy against
each other. And when the game came, poor blokes, I just kept going through and kicked a few goals and scored a few tries, and they were devastated. But at the end of the day, business is business, mate. It is what it is,
That's fucking so funny. Like, you're sharing a bus with them. That's hilarious.
We sitting next to each other the whole time, honestly, until the game came. So.
And you put 48 on them. What can do what I do. All right.
Should have been more. I dropped a couple of balls as well. It was a cold night.
Okay, so you also, in 2000, earlier in your career, it says you rejected a substantial offer from the Rabbitohs in 2002, and this is also 2002 is when you guys went on that run, but you had your point strip. Yep. What was the reason for rejecting the lucrative offer to stay at the Doggies?
Look, for me, 2002 came. We had a lot of local juniors come through. The likes of Sherwin and Braith played in our juniors, come through the system. Mason, Feeney, all them guys, that come through the system. And for me personally, I didn't want to miss out on that. Here you had a good group of people, young, and we knew we were going to be something. Although we didn't know what was happening behind the scene with the salary cap and all that, all we knew is that we were getting normal money like everybody else. But they just kept, I think, more players and that. So for us, people made it out to look like you're getting under the table money. No, but it was never like that. And we just went from there. And for me personally, again, look, I actually agreed for 2 years with the Bulldogs at the time. Okay. But they were drafting it, and it wasn't signed. It was handshake agreement. Handshake agreement. Agreed verbally, and we're just going to draft and you sign it. I said, okay, excellent. Next thing is all the dramas break out, and they're looking for solution. So the first thing they went to is they went to me and they said, you need to take a pay cut. And I'm like, okay, a $50,000 pay cut in 2 years. And I said, the first thing I said is everybody else doing that? Yeah, totally. And they said, oh, no, yes, no, and I said, if everybody does it, I'm happy to stay here and do the same. But if it's just me, sorry, no. So I picked up the phone, rang a few of the boys, and they said, no, I'm not taking a pay cut. I'm not taking, no. And I said, mate, listen, I'm not doing so. Why? Oh, because you haven't signed the contract. I said, but I agreed. It's there. You know what I mean? We agreed with the CEO. It's all on paper. You guys are drafting. You guys it took too long. It's not my fault. Yeah, absolutely. But we need to be under the cap by 50 or whatever it is, and we need to take them. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. Well, and then they played hard when I said, listen, I'm not doing so. And that's when I think guys like South Sydney and all that heard about it, approached me, and we had a chat. And and Manly come along as well that time, and I said to the Bulldogs, I gave him an ultimatum at the time, and I said, listen, if everybody's taking a pay cut, I'm more than happy to do so.
Absolutely.
But if it's just me, no. Therefore, you honour your agreement, I'll stay. If you don't honour your agreement, I'm just going to go elsewhere.
Which is absolutely reasonable. Yeah. Absolutely reasonable and fair. Okay, so how did that end up getting sorted out?
Well, they honoured their agreement.
Okay.
And then I said, yep, I'm more than happy. We still, I think, overall, we took a pay cut each.
Okay.
Which... It's better to take, for example, 5,000 or 8,000 instead of taking 50 grand. If you know
absolutely,
what I mean.
totally. Yeah. Okay, so most of the boys kind of got together and said, "Look, all right, let's all take a little pay cut to keep this squad together because it was an incredible squad."
Absolutely,
and it ended up being the best decision ever.
Yeah.
So 2003 rolls around. You lose to the Roosters, or you lose to the Roosters, and you started building a bit of a rivalry up with the Roosters, then, didn't you? Like because you were two of the best sides, and they'd won 2002, did they?
Yeah, I think, look, it mainly started after the 2002. We've always had, obviously, good battles with the Roosters, but not as probably intense as the ones with Parramatta and St. George. But after the 2002, especially because we had 17 games straight, and they threw everything at us a few times, and we still beat them. And, not to be part of that semi-finals hurt a lot of us, and then for the Roosters to go on and actually win that, we just thought, the rivalry is there now because we need to make this right. And so we look, we had a decent year, really good year, 2003. We probably played our worst game in the semi-finals, and they beat us, fair and square.
It's funny you say that because I had Minicello on the podcast.
Yeah.
And he said that they ended up losing that finals to Penrith because they played their grand final against you guys. Because Freddie, before they ran out, was like just arcing up, boys, this is it, the fucking ball's on the line, they're not better than this, that next thing.
Look, they had one of their best games against us. Again, early in the year, we actually beat them, and that's when Matty Yurtai scored that, that famous sort of try towards the last couple of minutes. So leading up towards the semi-finals, we thought, look, we had their measure, but we just we didn't execute well, we didn't play well, and they played their best game. And then again, look, the rivalry continued from there. Come 2004, I think they beat us that time really well at the SFS. I think 30-something nil, and we beat them again one more, and we met in the grand final. So,
So walk us through that. So this would have been your personal first grand final. That year you guys were incredible. Like everyone looks back on that 2004 Dog squad, and you're just like, wow, like what an incredible squad. What was the lead up like for you?
Yeah, look, early in the year the lead up was, probably the worst lead up ever. Obviously, going through the Coffs Harbour dramas. But it bonded us together. It bonded us together, and it just made us, game in, game out, just concentrate and do our job well. Again, we had a good young crop of players coming through the ranks, almost the same age, like the Roy Asatasi, the Rennie, Willie Tonga, William Mace, Braith, Sherwin, Utai. So you had few guys there, almost the same age, coming up together, and so. And people like myself, I just wanted to be part of that squad,
totally.
and play well. And I was reaping the rewards of it too, because I was scoring points, kicking goals. So to keep the squad together, and then go through all the way through to the semi-finals. We're playing the Cowboys again. We didn't turn up to the game, and we lost that. And I'm thinking, not again. Am I going to ever win a grand final here, or what's it going? Now, last year was that close. We didn't play well, and then we had Melbourne the next year, and that 03 obviously still had this Slater, Cronk, and all that. But again, probably not as established, as younger. Now, and we had their measure with Melbourne. We beat them well that time, and then we had Penrith. to play in the semi-finals.
All right, and they won the comp the year before.
That's it. They were premiers at the time, and SFS. And we've always had good battles with Penrith too. Again, they had that young squad, a lot of local juniors, and obviously not far. And the battles are always we're there together, and we went from there. Steve Fry's got injured the first hit up of the game. Look, we played a really good game that time. And we were in the grand final meeting the Roosters, so it was meant to be. And that we had a point to prove. Obviously, they had a point to prove as well. They wanted to show that 0-2, even if you guys were there, you guys are not going to win that one. So for us, it's all there. First half. Mate, they're all over us. All over us. They had the best defensive team. They've never lost a game that year leading the first half.
No way.
I think the score was there were 2 tries to maybe 2. I can't remember 12. Might have been 12-2 or something like that. Or 13 because they didn't score this again. So 13 before the field got 13-2 or something like that, and so second half we turned up, and we were lucky enough the first 5 minutes Utah scores in the corner, we convert, and then it goes on from there. We did have a try the first half. Matty Utah scored in the first half.
Matty Utah was so good.
So 13-6 I think it would have been or something like that.
So you go to the second half and you obviously get the win. What's the feeling like when the whistle goes? And
relief, and everybody just looked at each other and just it was one of the Andrew Ryan makes that wonderful tackle, try saving tackle, when as soon as the ball popped out, that's it. That was a grand final.
Was it Chris Walker that dropped the ball?
Croc, I think.
Croc, okay.
Croc,
so that happens, and I guess what's the feeling like for you personally? Because that's the pinnacle.
For me, it's something that you work hard so many times. You've been through the boards, you've been through the tough times, especially again as I said, Coffs Harbour, and a couple of years before that, salary cap, a couple of years before that, Super League split. So I was part of all that.
And you took pay cuts to stay together.
So to actually lift that trophy and seeing the boys and the jubilation there, and I jump on the double-decker bus and go back to Belmore.
What was Bankstown like, bro?
Mate, the drive was one of the best drives ever from ANZ Stadium all the way to Belmore. Cars everywhere, people on their drums and dancing in the streets and you name it. We got to Belmore, and they just continued. They just. Again, it's
is there any untold stories of that grand final that you can talk about, I guess, or anything like that?
Quietly we were confident. You turn up to the Leagues Club, and from the Leagues Club you catch the bus and go there. And I still remember just looking around, and people ask you were you guys confident? And I said, where do you get your confidence from? And were you nervous? And I said, look, of course you get nerves. But the way I settled my nerves is that I just looked at my teammates, and made sure that I looked at them in their eye and they looked back, and we were focused. We wanted that game, and you look, you feed off each other, So you look across and you see, Sonny's there, and you look across and Braith and Sherwin and Rennie's over here, and Willie Tonga and Roy Asatasi and O'Meara, and you're like, man, you know what, just give all you've got, and things will fall into place, and that's how you sort of generate that confidence, that boost that you need.
Totally. Like it sounds so simple, but it is quite a hard thing to have that unquestioning confidence in the guy next to you, where you can truly say, I know he's going to do his job. Whereas a lot of the time, when you find teams that struggle, though, that's the issue, is they're not confident in each other. They're not confident in their ability. And they could be big names and they don't. Totally. I think that's why Queensland were also so dominant, because they were so confident in their systems. Okay, so you win the premiership. In 2005 rolls around, and you guys struggled that year, did you? Sorry. 2004, you broke the NRL point scoring record for a single season, 342 points. Did you ever think a young kid, all the way over from Lebanon, you barely played the game growing up, would have these crazy records, like point scoring records?
Look, absolutely no. Especially I didn't. I didn't kick till 5 years later. So
Really?
5 years into my playing career, I only took over in 2001.
Oh.
And 2001 took over. I only had actually 3 months to get ready.
So how did that come about?
Well, Halligan retired in 2000.
Okay.
They needed a kicker, so Braith can kick, Sherwin can kick. I'll put my hand up. I can
You can kick.
Yeah,
You can definitely kick, bro.
At the time, I'll put my hand up. I'm happy to do the job. And so we had the off season to sort of pretty much try out. And in the trial matches, each one of us had a couple of kicks. I was able to nail one either side. And they said, look, the boys are in the halves. They've got a lot on their plate. We'll start with Hazem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, no worries. So, and I was putting in the effort. I was putting in the time, and that. And look, that first year, I kicked at 70-something%. Way below what I kick in it, but considering the circumstances that
absolutely.
I didn't kick for 5 years, it was just given to me. I kicked a couple at school. Being a soccer player, you can kick, but it's completely different ball, the curve. So I've just had to find my rhythm. So once I found my rhythm and I was comfortable behind it, that's where your confidence and everything comes. Just that repetition. And it took me a couple of years to actually find that. So I was lucky enough to actually equal the club record at 270 for my first year. Second year.
The first year, wow. That's crazy.
And I missed a lot of kicks I should have probably done. So the second year come along and I actually scored 294 points. And I really wanted to get to 300, and fell short a little bit as well. And then that was in 03, and then 04 came, and I thought, you know what, look, I really now, in 04, I really wanted to cement myself as a kicker now. Although 03, I was able to break the most consecutive kicks in a row, which is 35.
Yeah, I remember that. Were you rattled when you got?
I went through a really purple patch there, and I was kicking them from everywhere.
Mate, I remember it was crazy.
And then
so as you were getting higher in the point, like let's say you're at 30 in a row, 31 in a row. Was it in your head or not?
Oh look, I try not to think about it, but everybody else, everywhere you walked, and everybody's like, 30, don't mess it up. But I'm like, it's just I'm blocking it out. I don't care. Just let it go. Because especially when I actually got to 29. I missed one against the Broncos, hit the post. And then I was like, and then I was able to accumulate the 35 straight after that.
Oh, so you got to 29.
I got to 29.
And what was the record before you?
30.
30.
Yeah.
So you got one before.
I got to 29. I think 29, 26. I think 26, one of them. 26, 29. And then missed one that hit the post. And then I was able to get 35 after that.
Wow! So you went immediately on after you hit the post. Then you went immediately on the 35 run. So you could have actually been at, up
60
to
something,
64. We'll just say 64.
I think what helped was we at that time we played South, Melbourne, and I think the Cowboys, and we put big scores on all of them. And there was 3-4 games that I didn't miss a kick. So I had, I think, 11 from South, and then 9 from I think Melbourne. All of a sudden I'm on 20. So I was actually back again. Then I had to sort of.
Wow, at 29, so you were one. My, that's crazy.
And I remember actually that time I think I had about 20 again, 26, 27. Kicked a nice kick. It's coming around. I thought, it's going in, over and straighten up, hit the right post, and then down crossbar, and then luckily enough I was winning. I'm like, thank God for that.
Okay, so when you got to 30 is the record. Do you remember the kick to break the record?
Yeah, Manly. We played Manly because everybody, the hype. Everywhere you went, I equaled the record at 30. And then we're playing Manly at Brookvale.
Is there anything that you could tell us, like, not behind the scenes, but in the sense of, like, was there anything going on that day that you're like, man, I'm a bit rattled here? Like, I
wasn't feeling well, to be honest. I wasn't feeling that, I wasn't in the mood for kicking. I wasn't feeling I'm in the mood for kicking and all that. Look, luckily enough, the first couple of kicks were actually under the post or near the post. So I was able to break the record and all that. And and then you want to sort of set your own one. And just before actually right on half time, Luke Patton got I think inside ball towards the end. Had the choice to go right to score on the sideline or left, and he can come around and
he went to the sideline.
And then I 35, and I had that kick from the sideline, and windy condition. You can see the cloud right behind, building up behind the post.
So
and
it's all Patton's fault.
Hit it well,
fault.
but all of a sudden, he'll actually apologise. As soon as he passed me, the boy goes, sorry.
Really? He apologised to you?
I said, that's all right, you know what I mean?
Mate, how good's that?
Yeah.
It's so,
but it did do me a favour against Newcastle. He scored in the corner, got up, gave me the ball, and he said, mate, come on, you know what I mean? You can do that. So,
mate, how good
at least I nailed one of them. The important one, I guess.
Go under the post, bro. Under the post.
That's right.
Okay, so 35, and that's obviously still intact, that record, correct?
Yep.
It's the Cameron Smith that broke the points record, did he?
That's right, yeah.
But when you did break the points record, what was that feeling like for you? Because that's like, it's a huge record to break, something that takes years and years of consistency. Was it you were also aware of that when that was coming up?
Look, again, because I had a whole off season to do that, because I fell short about 8 points the year before that in 2008. And obviously the hype was all about it in 2008 towards the end. And then the first game against Manly again, at ANZ Stadium, swirling conditions and raining and all that. But still, we had 20,000 people turn up, and I was able to sort of break the record there. And
what an incredible record!
The beauty about this record is what I love about it is that it actually happened so quick within 9 years. So 9 years that I kicked for, I was able to sort of
it's crazy.
Accumulate that much
You
points
didn't even
in 9
start
years.
kicking. You kicked 5 years into your career, you said?
Yeah. So. Again, a lot of that, credit must go to a lot of the guys out there, and on top of that, he's in particular Brent Sherwin. I mean, he looked for me so many times. Little grubbers, he just pinpoint right there. Little kicks across, inside balls. So I was able to sort of, work out a really great combination with him, and I capitalised on that.
It's, an incredible record. Was there ever a period, you're hitting your straps, you're going really well, and you're a guy that, you would sign it's such an extra string to your bow, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't realise that if you can have a good kicker to tick over 6 points instead of 4, like you scored two tries, both converted, that's 12 points. Absolutely. Both not converted, 8 points. It's in your head. Was there ever a period where you considered leaving the Doggies, or you loved it there?
Look, I did towards the end. Obviously, I got a couple of offers. I think Rugby won in France.
Oh, really?
And one in England with the Rhinos when they go in well as well. I did consider that a lot, especially the Rhinos one in particular, Leeds Rhinos, but I just didn't want to go there, spend 3 years, and then I'll be 31, come back. Who's going to sign a 31-year-old winger? And then I'll have to stay another 2 years there. And England is not a place for me to stay for 5 years.
It is cold, bro.
I don't like the cold, So I can do a year or two, but do 5 years there. So I decided to obviously stay. And look, I do like it. I actually love it here. You've got your friends, your family, everyone's local and around, and it's a club that I grew up supporting. Money is not always the driving force behind my decisions. Although sometimes you want to be financially secured, but you want to be happy as well.
Absolutely.
And when you're happy, you play your best footy, and that's the comfort zone that I wanted.
You're totally right. Like, you can go and take this massive contract, but if you play poorly, your next contract's going to be bloody nothing.
Absolutely.
So 2002, though, you played for Australia. Who'd you play for? Who'd you play against?
New Zealand.
What was that? How'd you get the call, and how did that all come about?
Again, a salary cap.
Yeah.
So we didn't play any finals.
Yep.
And I just continued. I think part of the squad, the training squad, leading up to it. And Billy Johnston was one of the trainers, and he said, "Haz, I reckon you're a big chance here."
Really?
So
notorious trainer Billy Johnston too.
Oh, I love him. He's awesome. And Chris Anderson was the coach. Tony Ayub was the physio. So I was like, oh wow, And I did have a really good year in 2002 as well. Backing up from 2001 and 2000, where I actually got Player of the Year for the Bulldogs. So
really?
I kind of sort of strung a few years back to back, all of them. And I decided to go with me. Goal kicking as well played a bit of a part, and they needed a winger. And off to Wellington, went to Wellington to play New Zealand over there.
They picked it because they knew at least you could nail the goals. So you put the jersey on, you run out. What was that feeling like?
It was awesome, man. you look around. You had Gordon Tallis was the captain at the time.
Oh, the raging bull.
Kamali was there, and Lockyer and Webke, and you're like, oh wow, and all the boys are there, So
Totally.
Inside you're going 100 miles an hour, but outside you're just trying to keep it cool.
Totally. It's like you're one of them. I'm just one of them.
But and look, guys like Gordon Taylor's just fantastic. It made me feel so welcome. It's so funny, and you've dealt with him numerous times. Te Manatahi was my roomie again.
He was a gun, Te Manatahi.
Absolute. And not just a gun on the field. He's just a brilliant fella too off the field as well.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it was only one game because there was no tour at the time, or Tri Nations or anything like that. So it was just a one-off game.
Yeah. What do you remember from the game? What's something that stands out for you?
Look, obviously how fit New Zealand was because the majority of them were Warriors, and they made the grand final in 2004. Sorry, 2002.
Yeah, they gun side.
Yeah,
totally.
Obviously playing against Stacey and all the boys there. So they were physical, and they were leading a certain amount of time. I think maybe first half, and until we, as I said, we come through.
Yep.
So. And I think the Broncos didn't make the semis that year, maybe give and take, or no, they did. Sorry, but they were out the first game. So, so there was a lot of players not as fit as the Warriors.
Yeah, okay, yep,
Because
totally.
there was about 4-week period there where you had to train on your own, and match fitness. Obviously.
Match fitness, absolutely. Is there anyone that you played with that you really learnt? Like, 'cause you would have been about 22, 23 at this point.
Roughly.
Did you learn anything from any of the players, the way they did things, or were they, was there anything that?
Look, for sure, their professionalism. It's always something that you take on board. To see how things operate behind, and I think the biggest thing is that no matter what you question, do I belong in that arena?
Absolutely.
So and when you look around you and you contribute to the team. You want to leave that field with no regrets, and then that way that ticks off that box. It's not about just getting that jersey and I made it and not contribute or whatever, but you want to be able to sort of see if you actually belong in that arena, and what you do on the field. It ticks that box for you.
You don't want to just go and put the jersey on and then not represent yourself and your family to the best of ability. Yeah. But then, so 2005, 6. 2006, you were so close to a grand final. Walk me through that game against the great, the one and only Brisbane Broncos.
Yeah. Look, in 05, I've never been in a year like that. We could have gone back to back with that team. We had a lot of injuries. All our fourth pack, Mason, O'Mealy, Sonny, Rennie, all of them got injured early in the year. And then as soon as they come back, one by one, we sort of, all the backs got injured. So it was one of these years, including myself. I had 170-something games straight, got injured. I was a third fullback. So we lost 3 fullbacks in 3 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
So Luke Patton, Trent Cutler, and myself back 3 weeks. So no one wanted the number one after that one.
Yeah, curse, bro. It's curse.
So we couldn't even make the semis. It was sad. But and then 06 came. We wanted to bounce back. We had the squad for it, and so leading up, we had a really good year that year. I was able to score numerous points as well. Now we got to the semis against the Broncos. The hiccup before that was we lost Roy Asatasi for 5 with medial ligaments. So for about 4 to 5 weeks, come back for that game. Rennie 3 weeks, we come back for that game, and Willie Tonga was out for the year.
Okay.
So these are crucial players, especially in particular Willie Tonga out wide.
He was
always
a strike weapon,
for absolutely blitzed with his footwork.
Totally.
And we needed someone like that out wide.
His battles with Justin Hodges in 04 were great.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Come game time, we went out there first half. I think led at something like 20-4, and we really wanted the game. And then second half, you can't give Brisbane a chance.
Nah, not that Brisbane side anyway.
You realise the first half, they're like they're sleeping,
giant kind of thing.
Giant just sitting there, and when they wake up, it's
especially that squad. That squad was crazy.
The Webkes, the Lockyers,
Thorne, crazy.
the names,
Carmichael, Hodjo,
unbelievable. So and they were all having actually a great year. I think that time they lost something like 4 to 5 games straight.
Yeah.
And then, the talk of the town, and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
starts bagging them, and you can never do that. It's like Queensland, mate. Same thing.
They love it.
Whether it's Brisbane, and they love it. And all of a sudden, they've just strung a few games together, and I knew as soon as we lost to them, they're going to win the grand final.
Oh, really? You knew it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I said, you watch, they'll win the grand final.
Yeah, they just had their squad was just too, if they put it together, it's
momentum, mate.
Yeah.
Once, as I said, you get it together, you're a very hard team to stop.
And so so you lose you knocked out that 2007 though. You make your New South Wales debut.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Again, it's same as my debut for first grade.
Yeah.
Friday. So obviously the team gets selected, and I was knocking on the door. I played, I think 5, 6, 7 games of city side. Played Australia in 2002. I just couldn't get a Blues jersey.
Yeah.
I was consistent enough. I was breaking, as I said, points record. I've scored numerous tries leading up. So the runs were on the board, and I was consistent enough to be able to sort of get a call. But again, I think they were looking for them big wingers, and they were actually choosing centres to play on the wing. And a lot of times I got caught out as well. But come 07, had I think Murray as the coach, and Kevin Moore as the assistant coach, and all that. Jamie Lyon again got injured, I think, on Friday, or pulled out. And all of a sudden I got a phone call.
What were you doing when you got the phone call?
Look, it was a Friday. I just, as a Muslim, we have our Friday prayer, so I just finished, come out, and I think it was a private number. Normally I don't answer it, but I don't know, it's just something in me, just hello. And Hazem 1, 2, and 3. You're in the squad, and I'm like, oh, come on, seriously. Yeah. No, listen, you're in the squad. Pack your bags, and we'll see you tonight at Coogee. So as soon as I hung up, I actually sat in the car for about 5-10 minutes, just thinking, and again, it's that question that you go, do I belong in?
Yeah, totally.
Totally. And I was 31. I was 31 at the time.
And you had the runs on the board for so many years.
And I was one of the oldest players to make their debut. And I look, again, went home, told my family and all that, packed my bags, and got dropped off at Coogee, and saw the boys. I think Saturday, Sunday, Monday we flew to Brisbane. And Wednesday's the game, so not much preparation. But the boys were fantastic, made me feel very welcomed. Even the Brisbane, the Queenslanders, I've got to admit, mate, they were fantastic.
Really?
I remember a couple of stories. One, felt a little bit hungry, so when I thought I'd get a Subway sandwich and that, sitting down, ordered one. Bloke come out of nowhere and he said, oh, hey Hazem, I'm a big fan. Do you mind if I sit and actually eat and have a chat, So mate, go ahead, we sat down. He's a Broncos supporter, and we chatted away, no worries, and I thought, wow,
awesome. You don't hate me. What's going on here?
Even game time, I flew my wife and brother-in-law and both my brothers there, and every time I do something good, a lot of the Queensland actually crowd will turn around and go, that's
how good is that? That's cool.
Doing that to them, and
that's so cool.
So after the game, we even walked down the street, went to a convenience store. Went to the convenience store, walked in there to buy some goodies and that, and Queensland, they're walking with his jersey, stops, has a look. Come through the door. He goes, mate, I just want to shake your hand. That's all. Great game, although we lost, but that's okay. No worry.
Oh, really? How good's that?
Walk away. So look, for me, it was. It's something that I always wanted. I was looking forward to. I've come so close, and again, to get it at the age of 31, it's actually something I'm proud of, because it showed how consistent I was for a long time.
Totally. Because that age is like, so many times they would say, oh, he's 31, so we'll go for a younger guy. Guy. But for you to do it at 31, it's almost even more impressive than as a youngster, because you've worked, you've proven that you have earned that.
That's right. The consistency showed for a long time, So, at the time, I remember something like 50,000 people, and my first kick straight from the sideline. I was like, oh, great.
And you nailed it?
Oh, I nailed it.
Fucking oath he nailed it. Fucking oath he nailed it.
How
good is that? Yeah. Okay, so what was it like running out at Suncorp, though, for your debut?
Yeah, look, if I had the choice, of course, ANZ, it's fantastic, but... it's a gladiator arena, mate. Totally. Like, it's different, although some of them were supportive, but there was a lot of booing and a lot of obscenities, and but you love it. That's what makes you. That's what dreams are made of. That's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to sort of under all pressure, under under the pump. Again, you're playing guys like the English, the Slaters, the Bowen, Smith, Thurston, all the boys. Pricey and 70 Seaver. So it's an arena where you leave nothing.
Yeah.
You leave nothing but on the field. So. And I remember someone said, "Mate, enjoy it. It'll go quick." And mate, I'll tell you something.
It went so quick.
Wow.
What's the best spray you've ever heard whilst kicking?
Oh, look, there's a lot of them, but I can't remember exactly what it is. You get the odd lolly legs. And you're going to miss and, watch with the wind. And they try to play mind games. Of course, you get some of the
too bad ones,
the racist ones, or,
really?
you're this and that, whatever. But look, to me, I always said to people, I said, the more people actually made noise and teased and threw at me, the more it made me be in that zone and more determined to actually get the kick.
Wow.
So it kind of throw them at me, I'm just going to block them, and I'm going to be in that zone. It made me concentrate a lot more.
Okay.
And actually go through my routine, and as soon as I nailed it, I used to just turn around and look and just smile. That's all I needed.
Yep.
And so.
Do you feel that? Because it's so sad it's disgraceful that you have to deal with that. Has it improved? Did it improve over the years in the sense of not receiving those racist negative marks?
Look, it sure did. It sure did. Look, you're talking about number of people, and different grounds, for example, and that. But look, it sure did, and it so did that in 2009 when I retired my last game against the Warriors. We had 40-something thousand people, turn out just to say bye. Some of them weren't even Bulldog supporters or Warriors supporters. They just wanted to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
I ran into a lady at a chicken shop about a year or 2 years later, and she said, "Oh, Hazem, just wanted to tell you that an older lady." She said, "I went to your last game." She goes, "I didn't support any of the teams, but I just wanted to actually go and watch you." And even my husband, who rang up halftime, he goes, "What's the score?" She goes, "I don't know. I'm just here to watch Hazem."
How good's that?
And it made me laugh,
Yeah, totally.
And then after she left, I got up, walked in to pay. She paid for me.
Yeah, wow.
She paid for me, and the guy said, "Mate." She said, that's just something your present or a gift for you, So
you tend to, obviously it's disgraceful that you have to hear that kind of stuff, but you tend to focus on the thousands and thousands of good people that that did love what you did and loved the game of rugby league kind of thing, instead of letting those minority get in your head or feel it makes
absolutely. Look, the game embraced me. I embraced the game. The people embraced me. It's fantastic. They saw what I'm really all about, and I was like an open book. My mates, I love my mates, they love me, and because honesty,
totally
I was like an open book, whatever you wanted to find out. Yes, I was Lebanese, I was a Muslim, and we went through a decade where it was just terrible, you're talking from September 11 to the Bali bombing to the Cronulla riots to you name it, was all happening. And a lot of my mates actually didn't question me, and I said, look, we know what you're like, so you don't even have to explain to us.
Absolutely.
So again, you're going to get your radicalized people, you're going to get your ignorant, and but at the end of the day is there was even threats that coming through the club towards myself at that particular time, every time something happened. But you put that behind you because, again, look, there's a lot of ignorant people. There's a lot of people that don't know much. News forms views, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
And what they see is what they think.
Totally.
And they want to target their abuse or their racism towards someone, unfortunately.
And it sucks because, if they just sat down and spoke to you, all of the bullshit that they've been taught by the news would just go. It would go in a second.
That's right. And that's my mates. My mates again. A lot of things where always we roomed together. We trained together. We shared lockers together. So there was always going to be that sort of a question. Why do you guys, for example, do this one? Why? How come? What's Ramadan about? What's halal about? What's do you guys pray 5 times a day? Why do you do this? And I was more than happy to actually answer their questions. And if I didn't know, I didn't just make something up. I said, listen, I don't know. I'll find out for you, and I'll come back. And I did that. I'll go and ask the right people,
Yeah.
and to come back and say, look, the reason why we don't drink is 1, 2, and 3. The reason why we don't gamble is 1, 2, and 3. So I made sure that all their questions were answered, and they appreciated that.
Okay.
They appreciated the fact that I was fasting in 38 degrees in Ramadan
crazy.
in off-season training, and
Yeah.
they just thought the dedication,
Mate,
you know what I mean, he's showing,
incredible.
and he wants to be part of this team, nothing's going to stand in the way. Other guys from the same background and same religion were using that as an excuse. At 5 o'clock, which we eat at 8, for example, at a time, I was training at 9, 10, sometimes at 12 o'clock, midday, 38 degrees, and no water, no food.
Mate, just incredible. I mean, if anything, it would make the boys respect you even more as a human being. The fact that you can go to such great heights whilst also being dedicated to your faith and something that's really important to you. What was it like? Coming from a country that is majority Muslim, is it Lebanon still?
Yeah.
To a country that obviously is a majority, and there was a period there where it was really tough for you guys with the news and all that kind of shit. How hard was the culture, getting used to the culture and the culture differences?
Look, it is tough, but you learn and you adapt.
Yeah.
People always say, "Oh, you guys don't assimilate." No, we do, but what does assimilate means, for example? Does that mean I have to, for example, drink and gamble and do whatever it is to assimilate? No, I can be there, drinking water, I can socialize, I can talk to you, I can be able to be there, but there's certain things that you don't want to step on, and vice versa. So an only way to be able to break that barrier is through knowledge. Asking the right questions, making sure you answer them as well, so you don't let people guess,
make things up for themselves in their own head.
That's right. Or let them form their views. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to tell them. So every question they sort of had, I was more than happy to answer them. And again, you've got to have a sense of humor. You've got to muck around and all that. And when they see all that, and you're bubbly and you're dedicated and you're working hard, that's what bonds people together.
So for example, Ramadan, when you fast in that, what's what's incredible in my opinion is the science that's coming out now about how fasting is actually really good for you, clears your mind, and it's like how did they know all the way back then? Anyway,
that's right.
That's a different topic. But we look at a guy like Payne Haas who fasts and that. What's the kind of walk us through a day where you may have to play a game and you're fasting? What's the mental headspace to get through because it's tough, incredibly tough. What's the day like for you?
Look, you got to be strong mentally. To play the game of rugby league in general, you have to be. There's a lot of people with the same talent. What makes them different is the actual their mentality. They're mentally stronger than certain people, and that's why they go and they make it. They actually might not be as talented as others, but they're strong mentally, they never say no. So for me, thank God I was always strong mentally, and come Ramadan I was always working hard, and the boys, again, as I said, they saw that. So come to approach a game, in my last game actually, 2009 semi-finals, I was fasting.
No way.
Although I can eat at night because we from sun up to sun down, we're not allowed to eat, but we can eat at 6:30. The game is at 7:30.
Okay.
So I pretty much I had half a Gatorade. A bit of you can't eat much because before a game.
Yeah.
And even as I said, the year before that, I played Canberra. In Canberra, I was fasting the whole day. It was during the daytime, and it was tough. I played fullback as well. So
no way.
It was hard, but look. But that's why you train yourself, And look, mentally, you got to stay on top of it. The hardest thing about it wasn't food; it was actually water, the dehydration.
Oh, because you don't drink.
No water, nothing goes through your mouth. You can, nothing to go through your mouth until, as I said, when the sun goes down.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So for me, again, it's just about the sacrifice. You got to know the wisdom behind it. Some people think I'm just fasting and doing it. No, you're actually not allowed to argue with people. You're not allowed to fight in Ramadan. You got to be lenient. You got to be. It's about sacrifice. A month of giving. Yeah. It's a month of cleansing. So again, the scientist shows now. Science shows now that how good it is for your system and how it improves your cells and improves your well-being.
Yeah. Age less, all the science is incredible.
So again, you got to know the wisdom behind it. Once you know the wisdom behind it and the sacrifice that why you're doing doing these things, that's what your strong mentality, it comes from.
Yeah, okay.
So it's got to be rock solid.
You can see the wisdom, and you can also see that it is for a very important thing in your life.
That's right.
It's the reasons. Okay, so why did you retire? What was the reason for retirement?
Look, for me, my back started to go. I mean, obviously in 2008, I was in excruciating pain. The L4, L5 was tapping sciatic nerves on my left-hand side, all the way through. And I just couldn't stride out. I felt like I had, to be honest with you, a couple of screwdrivers in my hamstrings, and I just couldn't run. And I spoke to the doctor, and he said to me, look, go get some scans. I did that and come back L4, L5 and another one on top. So, and I had the Lebanese back. and he said to me, how did you last that long?
Yeah, wow.
So I had obviously one more year in 2009 to go. We had new trainers, a new coach at the time as well, Kevin Moore, and look, I worked out something with the trainer. He said, mate, you've almost played 300 games at the time. Now what we need from you is more core skills. Okay. And I did that. I did a lot of Pilates, I did a lot of yoga, I did a lot of got a lot of massages, a lot of core skills, so it helped a lot, but I couldn't stride out.
Yeah, okay.
I was in pain, so I lasted the whole year, and I was actually extremely happy with that year, because again I feel like I was running at 65%, and I couldn't stride out, and I was able to sort of, thank God, kick my goals, and I'm good at achieving, breaking the record, getting leading point scorer that year as well.
Wow.
So I thought, look, you know what, I topped the year off.
Absolutely.
And to me, I just, when you wake up out of bed, when you think to yourself, I hope someone got the number plate of that truck that just ran me over. After every game, that, look, it's time to go. Time to go. Obviously now, look, they're lasting longer. There's recovery a lot more. There's better
science behind it.
And guys going to 36, 37, 38. So I was 33 at the time, and just my body said, look, you've had enough.
Yeah.
In the off season, I tore my hamstring a couple of times.
Okay.
I had to come back, and so I just learned to not run past a certain pace. That's it. Otherwise,
if you make a break, just start looking.
Yeah, that's exactly what I done. So I just had to rely on my experience and make sure I'll be there, and then just zip on. I scored about, I think, 14 tries, but they were all close.
Okay.
I just made sure I'm in the right place, back up 5 meters, boom. So
and I want to, for people listening, or if they've got a kid that's a kicker, what's a bit of advice you'd give a young kid that's, and to be honest, I think kicking's such a good, you could use as an analogy for life. Like, it's a high pressure situation, and a lot of these kickers, yourself included, I assume, you proved it, but you're so good at going, like, okay, I need to focus now, and just focusing right in. What's some advice you'd give to a young kid that wants to be a good kicker?
Confidence comes from what you put in, obviously in your training. So before the boys turn up at training, after the guys turn up at training, on your own. I used to drive. We trained at Belmore, and we trained at Belmore. We played at ANZ. So for me, I had to familiarise myself with the ground itself. So I'd finish my second session at 3:00. I'll have a shower, jump in my car, book in a session at ANZ, drive all the way to ANZ,
no way.
Park my car, go down there, kick for an hour and a half, By the time I finish, I'm coming back home at 7 o'clock, Wow. People didn't see that behind the scene.
Wow.
But I had to actually, again, the surroundings play the wind, the way it blows, the way
everything.
It swells, So you got to learn these things, You got to be able to sort of stay on top of them.
Okay.
Especially the grounds like the SFS, ANZ, they swirl. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. So, so preparation extremely important. What you put in, training, where you do it. And you got to find, from a kicking perspective, mentally you got to be strong. You miss a couple, doubt creeps in straight away.
Absolutely.
So you got to just have to block that out. Mentally, you have to be strong and believe in yourself and say, go back. Okay, I watch a lot of videos. I recorded myself, you know, with the good old Nokia phones, for example.
all grainy,
you know, I'd watch it and analyse myself, you know, and even when we play, for example, a TV game, I'd record it. If I missed a kick, I want to know why, you know, so I'll learn from that. So you've got to learn from your mistakes. But as far as putting in the efforts or kicking, it's finding the right rhythm. What makes you comfortable that you're actually there to do 9, even 10 out of 10 times.
Okay.
Same footsteps, same rhythm that you're able to be comfortable with.
Okay.
Following through is extremely important. Eliminating another doubt, visualizing the ball going through, and just seeing yourself go through it, and confidence. You've got to have that confident ability. Sometimes, again, I've missed 2-3 kicks and you think to yourself, you know, I've aimed at the right post as a right kicker, or outside for it to come back and hit the post. In reality, it's actually a perfect kick. I aimed for the post, I hit it. But you know, you don't think you're going to hit it. You think it's going to
aim and come back in.
Come back in, and then.
So, any opportunity you got, did you go to the ground before, like in the week of that game, to kick whenever you could?
As much as I can. If we flew to New Zealand, I'd make sure, for example, if I can get a session there, I'd go. I'd have to mention his name, Fritz Soralda, obviously our manager. You know, he always made sure that we stayed back after the bus, and while the boys finish training, they go. And I'd stay back and come back with him in the van. Semi-finals, if I got a chance to go to, for example, if we're playing at the SFS, if I get a chance to book it in and go down there, I'd do that.
Were most stadiums pretty welcoming, like to let you do it?
Yeah, a lot of them were actually.
Was there any ones that weren't? Were anyone like, nah, you're not coming in?
Look, you might have got a couple, but you know, there's certain ones that you can't, obviously, because you might be driving to, you know, the ones that, for example, you're driving to Canberra, you're driving to Newcastle, it's a bit harder. But sometimes you're staying back anyway. So if you're playing the Titans or Brisbane, you actually get a field session for the boys, for the captains run and that. So you're able to stay back and kick. But you've got to be always willing and ahead of the game. You know, preparation plays a major role. Yeah,
totally. Ask all the boys this: favourite rapper of all time.
Favourite rapper of all time, probably Snoop, man. I don't mind Snoop. You know what I mean?
He's good energy. He's good.
That's right. You know,
favourite movie of all time.
Favourite movie, look, there's two of them. Probably the Nutty Professor and Coming to
Coming to America.
Coming to America, and then I believe number 2's coming out. You know, so I love a bit of comedy movies. You know,
absolutely. And who is your greatest player of all time? Who do you think's the greatest rugby league player of all time?
Look, growing up around the area, I loved Turvey and Barr. You know, but you know, playing against certain you know, players and that, you know, look. I know the Thurstons and Lockies and that, but Joey to me is just one of these guys. Just you know, what he did on during the game and his defence and all that, just the all-round game. I just, you know, that's just my opinion.
And who was the toughest winger you ever marked?
Toughest winger. Look, the Brisbane, obviously the Brisbane.
Dylan Takiri.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The Brisbane boys, you know what I'm saying, always go. You know, they if you didn't turn up, mate, they gave you a hard time. You know, so.
Yeah, and you were there during like their peak, like on that. And he's a big boy. When I played him, when he came back for the Dragons, and I was playing for the Broncos.
I heard about that story.
But what I couldn't believe was how big he was.
Yes.
Because like,
and sometimes, you know what, you're playing 1 year and he turns up the second year and you go, oh my God, what is that? You know, like he just goes to one other level. You know, and the guy can step and run. You're like, how?
Totally. Like I was always taught, if you're small, you can be quick and nippy.
That's right.
If you're big, you're big and slow. But these days, it's not like that, mate. Thank you so much for coming on, and mate, I'm just a huge fan. Your career is incredible.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
I just think you've been such a good role model for the game as well. So thank you. I
appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Boom. Thank you.
Just a bloke in a bar.